The No Nonsense Roundtable. It's a weekly show broadcast on Rochester, New York's 50,000-watt iHeart radio station, News Radio Wham 1180. The host, Dom Genova, interviews guests from all walks of life, all with amazing stories to tell. What you are about to hear is a recording of a previous broadcast without the breaks and commercials. Now, here's host Dom Genova.
Well, welcome everybody to another edition of your No Nonsense Roundtable. My name is Dom Genova, your host every Saturday right here on News Radio Wham 1180. And like I like to remind everybody, the past shows are on NoNonsenseRoundtable.com. And today we are coming off a wonderful presentation, wonderful weekend of presentations on the Rochester Music Hall of Fame induction ceremony. And one of the inductees was Mr. Garth Fagan, who, of course, is Garth Fagan Dance, nationally known, world known, a tremendous talent and tremendous, I would say, asset of Rochester. And we have right here in our office, Mr. Bill Ferguson, who happens to be the executive director of Garth Fagan Dance, and he's going to be here to talk about, Garth Fagan Dance and a lot of other things about, Rochester and our rich history in performances. And thank you for being here. And, first thing, let's talk about you. The question I always have is, how did you get here? I love the question, what did you want to do when you were 10 years old? I mean, you didn't tell your parents you wanted to be executive director of
a world-class, internationally renowned dance company. When I was 10 years old, I wanted to be a farmer, and then I wanted to be an economist. Dom, I'm very happy for the life that I had. My parents afforded me a wonderful life. My father was in the service. He spent 28 years in the service, and between the age of 6 and 17, I spent 1 year in the United States. The rest of the time, I lived in Turkey and Germany. So my experiences has definitely shaped who I am, and has shaped how I view the world and how I accept the world and how I bring everything that comes to me and try to imbue it into my life and into my family. I have a lovely wife, Nicolette Ferguson, who danced with Garth Fagan Dance for 21 years and who now has a master's degree, and she's an adjunct lecturer at Genesee State University. Uh-huh. She's also the director of the Community Artist program for Garth Fagan Dance. And I have two young boys, a 14-year-old and 10-year-old. My 14-year-old had a track meet yesterday. He did the triple jump, the high jump, and the 440 relay. Really proud of him. He does really well, and he works really hard. My 10-year-old is a math whiz, uh-huh. So unlike his father. But we're very, very working hard to keep our children very goal-oriented and know themselves and enjoy life. I've been with Garth Fagan Dance for 34 years now. I started out as a dancer. I remember talking to a couple people who came to see us at when I started dancing, and I was doing this move that was really slow across the floor. I was bent over, had my arms out to the side, and I was moving really incredibly slow. And I still almost tripped over myself, and people were like, I don't know if he's going to make it. 34 years later, I'm the executive director of Garth Fagan Dance.
That's wonderful. I love people that had pivots in their lives. You want to be I have to ask you, what kind of farmer did you want to be?
Oh, geez, that's a good question. That's a good question. We were living in Salina, Kansas at the time. Wow. So although there was a lot of corn around us, I think I was thinking cattle. Between my wanting to be a farmer and becoming a dancer at Garth Fagan Dance, I spent some time. I went to college. To become a behavior specialist. I was going to go to Kenya and study mountain gorillas because I was really into human and animal behavior. Uh-huh. And then I had some knee issues while I was in college, and so I decided, let me just do a career. Let me find a career that could keep me that can keep me going for a while. So I joined the Air Force. I'm an Air Force veteran.
Oh, okay.
I spent 3 years in the service.
Oh, thank you for your service.
Thank you very much. You're welcome. You're welcome. I always tell people I had really tough duty. I was stationed in Hawaii for 3 years. I was on a swing shift. I was a crew chief on the OV-10A aircraft, which is a twin prop job. It's a forward observation and reconnaissance aircraft. That was a really important experience for me in my life.
Boy, I love this show. I really do. Because I get a chance to meet people with such different paths in life. I mean, I would never have called that. But okay, so what was your first? I like to ask people your first paid gig as a dancer.
My first paid gig
was it with Garth Fagan or was someplace else?
No. It was in Hawaii. Let me go back. My first paid gig as a dancer was with the Stars Dance Troupe in Kansas City, Missouri. Before I went into the service, there was a gentleman. Oh, geez, I'm going to forget his name. Steve.
So you must have been pretty young.
I started dancing at 18. I started professionally dancing around 20 years old. I started taking professional classes, structured classes at 18. I actually started late as a dancer, but because I was musical and as an athlete, basketball was really instrumental in helping me learn how to place myself within a group of people within a specified space.
Right.
So when a choreographer came and they wanted a male dancer to dance in space to the music, all of those things I could do, and I had methods and tools for how to maneuver and be in space and move while I'm in space.
So as a dancer, I would imagine you have, obviously you have coaches, but it's got to be very similar to being a professional athlete as far as discipline and strength and whatever, right?
Oh, definitely. At Garth Fagan Dance, we would take class twice a day. Our classes are our exercise, our technique that helped develop our form, which you see on stage at Garth Fagan Dance, a very, very specific way of moving, and we train in that specific way of moving. It's like a gymnast, trains a certain way to do, the parallel bars or, the floor routine, that's how we train as dancers. And then, there's the eating regimen, nutrition regimen, physical activity regimen that we have to adhere to. So the discipline in that regard was really high.
Yeah, and as opposed to a sports performance, it has to be done precisely the same way, consistently, day after day.
Day after day, every day. Every day. When you see us perform on stage, when you see us dancing on stage, even though one of the most beautiful things about Garth Fagan Dance or dance really is sometimes you see the dancer out there and they look like they're just making it up in the moment. No.
Right.
That's hours and hours and hours of trying to be at that same place on the stage at that same time in the music.
And it's got to be really rewarding for you to be doing what you love.
It's everything. It's everything. As a matter of fact, on May 13th, we'll be doing a performance at Innovation Theater. Early evening on May 13th. Everybody really try to come out and see Garth Fagan Dance on May 13th. Saturday, May 13th. Come and see us the day before Mother's Day. Bring your mom in.
On Saturday, May 13th.
On Saturday, May 13th. Okay?
Well, we're about ready to head into a break, and we're going to talk more about May 13th when we come back. Well, welcome back. You're listening to the No Nonsense Roundtable, and we're here today with Mr. Bill Ferguson, who is the executive director of Garth Fagan Dance. And we were saying you have something coming up. Was it May 13th?
May 13th, Saturday, May 13th, Garth Fagan Dance will be performing at the theater at Innovation Square, and we have some really special. This is going to be a really special performance for Garth Fagan Dance because this is going to be the first time that, and I'm hoping I'm not getting too far ahead of things, that we will have a woman choreographer who is done work on the company. Natalie Rogers Cropper,
Okay.
Betsy Award winner, 34-year veteran of Garth Fagan Dance, will be presenting her first work on the company on Saturday, May 13th.
Okay, and let's do the 30-second retail on this. How do people get tickets, and what time is it?
The show will be at 6 o'clock. It's a mid-evening show.
Okay.
You'll be able to go to the theater at Innovation Square to get tickets, or Garth Fagan Dance to get tickets.
Okay, so let's kind of back up for a little bit and talk about Garth Fagan. I mean, tell me about him as a man and what he's like to work for. But let's talk about how he got involved in dance originally, and a little bit about the history of Garth Fagan Dance. I think the one thing that most people, if people know about Garth Fagan, the number one thing that they know and they admire, I think, is his work with the Lion King, right?
The Lion King. Oh my God. It's really wonderful how the Fagan technique Garth developed Fagan technique because he wanted to see people perform differently on stage. In 1994, I think it was, that's when Disney first started thinking about the Lion King and creating a Broadway production. And I recall being at Long Beach Community College and Garth coming up to us and saying that there are people from Disney coming to see the show. One of the beautiful things about being with Garth Fagan Dance, wherever we were, there's always somebody coming to see the show, because there were a lot of people who were very intrigued about what Garth was doing. So the way that we move has moved 100 million souls globally to go through the Lion King to understand Fagan, to understand how we move at Garth Fagan Dance. And it's a really invigorating, I hate to use the same words all the time, beautiful way of moving, beautiful expression of dance that's different than what you normally see. Garth came to the United States in 1960. He went to Detroit. He started dancing for the National Dance Company of Jamaica with Ivy Baxter in Jamaica. I think he said he started dancing in a musical called Once Upon This Island. I believe that's it, on a dare.
Mm-hmm. On a dare.
On a dare. And Garth was a great dancer. Cha-cha, mamba, everything. He was winning dance contests all over the place. And when he traveled to Wayne State University in 1960, he met Pat Welling there when he got interested in dance. And Pat Welling helped to frame for him how to take his gifts as a dancer and do choreography,
And I saw an interview by Teresa Marchenberg of Garth, and he was talking about what motivates him. And sometimes he hears the music first, and sometimes it comes second. Could you explain that whole philosophy? Because that does sound it's fascinating.
It's where Garth is as I understand Garth is a purist when it comes to dance. We do a dance called Prelude, subtitled "Discipline is Freedom." And when Garth created the dance, it was created with a number of solos at the beginning of the dance in silence, because dance is an art form on its own.
So, yeah, okay.
They say dancers are the thoroughbreds of the arts. But more often than not, dance is set with music. Sometimes you see dance where the music goes plink, the dancer goes plink. When the music goes plunk, the dancer goes plunk. Garth wanted his dance to be separate from the music. He wanted his dance and the music to exist in the same place and help each other, to express the idea or the theme that he was going through. And so sometimes, there was a dance, the idea, the movement came to him, before he heard music, and so he'd have the whole dance created in his head, and then he would find some music to help enhance the experience. Because in addition to being a pure artist, Garth understands the theatrical aspect of it too, which is one of the reasons why The Lion King was so successful. But that's another conversation. And then, but sometimes creatively, Garth Garth will be sitting down listening to like Miles Davis. Sitting down listening to Miles Davis in a silent way, and he'll see a dance, or he'll feel a dance, and the dance will come out of that music. And that, I'm paraphrasing. I really don't want to talk for Garth, but as a creative artist myself, I'm the director of the Garth Fagan Dance Student Ensemble, and I've been doing choreography for the student ensemble for over 20 years now. And I know there are some times where I feel some movement, and I get a whole phrase of movement, and I have the whole dance together, and then I know that, okay, I want to frame it with music. But then there are times where I hear some music and I'm like, oh, I have to put a dance to this. So that's, I'm partially taking my expression as a creative artist with dance, pairing it with what I know of Garth and what I've heard Garth say, because that place where creativity flows on a wavelength that I think all creative artists tie into, you plug into. And that's where all those ideas come from, because you have to sort of be in the zone, like they say athletically, you have to be in the zone. Like when Kobe Bryant gets into Mamba mentality, and Kobe is amazing. He snapped his Achilles tendon, and he was still able to walk and shoot free throws after that. That place where you go to be excellent within the framework of your gift. That's the thing that makes Garth Fagan Dance special.
Well, one of the things I think I'm hearing from you. So when you look at the MGM logo with the lion and the lion above the lion, we know what that says, right? It says art for art's sake.
Yes.
Okay, art for art's sake. So sometimes it's art for art's sake, and sometimes it has to be commercially viable, right? I mean,
correct.
Right?
Oh, yes.
So there's sort of a duality to what you're doing, right?
Oh, definitely. When Garth creates a dance, Garth's dances, or when a person creates a dance, the dance in itself is enough. But because we want to create something that is that we can sell. There's revenue, there's all things we want to do. And there's a theatrical aspect to it. You create the dance, and it's on the stage. There's no lights, there's no costumes. So that's where the theatricality comes in. Once you create the dance, you want to make costumes that enhance the dance. Then you want to make the lighting that enhance the costumes, that enhance the dances, that enhances the dance, and is able to bring the theme or the idea that you have in a dance forward, so that somebody who's looking at it can say, oh yeah, I like that. Or no, I don't like that at all.
So the commercially viable things that you do help pay for the experimentation with the rest of the performances that you are experimenting on, I would think.
Oh,
right?
Definitely. It's we're a company of right now we're a company of 12 dancers and an administration of 3. So we got to make that work.
You got to make that work. Well, we're heading into a news break, and we're going to talk more about this after that. Well, welcome back. We're listening to Bill Ferguson, the executive director of Garth Fagan Dance. And Garth Fagan was just inducted into the Rochester Music Hall of Fame last weekend, which is well-deserved, I would say. And I know you have a performance coming up that's Mother's Day weekend, right?
We have a performance coming up Mother's Day weekend, Saturday, May 13th, 6 p.m. at the theater at Innovation Square. You can get tickets at Garth Fagan Dance or at the online at the theater at Innovation Square, where it's going to be a really wonderful performance. This will be the first performance where we will have Natalie Rogers-Cropper present a dance that she's done on the company, and Natalie is only the third person other than Garth or Norwood Pennywell to have done work on the company, and that's something that we're looking to do much more. Looking to have other people bring their ideas and their abilities to help enhance everything that Garth Fagan Dance does. Garth Fagan Dance is a corporation. We're a business. When we create a piece, we're creating art, but we want to create art that's going to help us create revenue so that we can continue to create art.
Right. Create more art.
Create more art. That's what we do. That's our business. And there's a theatrical aspect to what we do. Mm-hmm. You know, the dances can stand on their own. The dances can be put on stage without music, without costumes and regular work clothes, and they're beautiful pieces of art.
Right.
You know, but when it's like The Lion King, if it's just a dance out there or just the actors out there, it's beautiful work. But there's a theatrical aspect to being on stage. And as intelligent human beings, if we're not making the most of everything that we have available to us to bring a product to our viewers, to the people who come to see us, if we don't bring our best and we don't bring everything that we have to bear to that work, to give them something that they can take home, to give them something that when they look at us, they forget about the fact that they had to get diapers today. They forget about the fact that they're on their way to the theater, you know, the check engine light came on, you know. And another wonderful thing that Garth Fagan does as a business in Rochester is when we're performing at 6 p.m. on May 13th, at 4:30, people are going to Velvet Belly. They're going to a number of places. They're going to Wegmans that morning to get something for dinner. We are an economic.
Right. I absolutely get that. I believe in that. The thing is that there are so many assets, quality of life things that Rochester have, and more people need to know about that. That's one of the reasons for this show. And my feeling about dance is that dance is not on the top of the list of everybody at all times, but you should take advantage of this. It should be on your bucket list. You should go. You might like it. You might see something that you haven't seen before, and you might become, well, a fan.
I couldn't agree more. Dom.
Try it.
Definitely. Yeah. Come and see us. Come and see us. This is a good time to come and see us. We're going to be giving you a nice variety of our ability to create dance and art that will allow you to have a little departure from your daily life, you know. That's one of the most beautiful. A great movie, you go into a great movie, you're in there for 2 hours, you're like, oh, that went by so quick. Mm-hmm. A great baseball game, football game, it's like, man, that was over too quick. Same thing with beautiful art. You go to the Louvre, you go to the Metropolitan Museum, and you're sitting in front of a painting, and you're there for 5, 10, 15 minutes, and you're like, how can I didn't realize that I've been sitting here looking and falling into this work. And the beautiful thing about dance is the only art form, whereas we are the thing of which the art is made.
Mm-hmm. That's a very good point. And the other thing is that people need to understand this is a world-class event in Rochester.
In Rochester, New York.
Right.
Yes, Garth Fagan Dance has been in Rochester, New York going on 53 years now. 53 years. And Garth Fagan Dance, I think it was in 1992, we were performing in Caesarea, Israel. And we were performing, and people were just blown away by Garth Fagan Dance. And a couple came up to me after the show and said, you know, I heard that y'all were coming. We're from Rochester. We've been living in Israel for the last 15 years, and we wanted to make sure all of our friends knew. And I said, wow, that's so amazing. We were in Austria, and the reviewer in Austria said that when Garth Fagan Dance comes to town, when people see somebody doing our movement, they know that it's from Rochester, New York.
Right. And that's the thing that I have to remind people is that this is world class in Rochester.
World class in Rochester.
Now, Rochester, one of my feelings about Rochester too, there were a lot of undiscovered, if you would say, or undiscovered things, and one of them is the tradition of performances and things with music, most naturally, but other than music too, right?
Oh, definitely. I was having a conversation with a musician the other day, and we were talking about Austin, Texas, and about how Austin has a reputation for having a lot of art and music there. Mm-hmm. And somebody from Austin, Texas came to Rochester, and they said, Austin's got a lot going on, but the level and the depth of artistry that Rochester has is beyond amazing.
So when somebody comes to a performance, let's say the first time they come to a performance, what should their mindset be? I mean, what would you recommend? Like if you were a sommelier and you were serving somebody wine, what would you recommend?
I'd recommend cleanse your palate before you come. Cleanse your palate before you come, and bring your experiences to what you see. If it's something you see and you really like it, allow yourself to like it. If there's something you see and you don't understand it, allow yourself to go and research afterwards what you don't understand. One of the issues that I've come up with, that I've run across talking to people, I don't know modern dance. I don't know contemporary dance. I don't know I don't understand how I'm feeling or what I'm feeling. That's a good place. Uh-huh. That means that you now have to go out and educate yourself. And when you go out and educate yourself, you're going to grow. You're going to grow as a human being because you're going to find out more about what you don't know and expand on what you do know.
Well, and I mean, you're seeing something absolutely unique. I mean, every performance has got to have a little bit of a change to it.
Oh, yes. That's because we as performers grow. Norwood Pennywell, who's been dancing with the company for 43 years, when you see Norwood perform, he'll perform a role that he did 43 years ago. Uh-huh. He's not going to be the same person. He's not the same person he was 43 years ago. Steve Humphrey, who's been performing with the company since the beginning, since 1970. Steve is 73 years old. Steve is not going to look like an 18-year-old out there. He's going to look like somebody who's been doing this for 52 years and give it that level of quality and that level of integrity and that level of character, So every time you see the dance is different because not only are the dancers different, not only do the dancers grow, you grow too.
Well, and with that, we're about ready to take another break, and I'm going to ask you a personal question when we get back.
All right.
Well, welcome back. You're listening to the No Nonsense Roundtable. I'm talking to Bill Ferguson today, who's the executive director of Garth Fagan Dance. So what is your greatest challenge and what is your greatest joy?
Oh.
What's the greatest challenge in your job?
The greatest challenge in my job is carrying the corporation forward towards my vision. Okay, I think that's the greatest challenge, and it's my greatest joy too. I see a place where Garth Fagan Dance. I see Garth Fagan Dance in the future. Let me see that, and taking the steps and the proper steps to reach that future.
All right,
that's one of the greatest challenges I think I have. As a dancer. Starting out as a dancer and then, becoming Garth's assistant, becoming the company's executive artistic liaison. I've done commercials for the company. I've done audio. I've done marketing. I've done the archive. Recently we've had our archive is now going to be housed at the Library of Congress, the largest library in the world.
Wow.
And so there's plans for what we're doing next with that. We just recently had a documentary, sort of semi-50th anniversary retrospective with WXXI, where it documented how we got through COVID, and what's next after that.
Yeah. So what really gives you a big charge? Is it creating something new? Is it having the younger people get involved and seeing somebody? I mean, what gives you an endorphin rush?
The thing that gives me an endorphin rush is watching the young folks. It's watching the young folks do it. It's a Saturday mornings going in and watch at 9:15 and watching the creative imaginations classes and looking at some of those kids 3 and 4 years old and what their life's going to be.
Oh, talk to me about that. I mean, the creative imagination class, and it's for very young children?
It's from 9:15 to 10 o'clock on Saturday mornings for children 3 or 4 years old.
Really?
Yes.
That young?
That young. Because that's a place where, there's no inhibitions. There's no inhibitions. And what we begin to do in the creative imaginations classes, we begin to form and shape them so that once they go into the next class from 10 to 11 o'clock, which is a 5 to 7-year-old class, they're ready to begin learning the structure of how we teach class. And then from 11 to 12:15 is a more basic Fagan technique class for 8 to 12-year-olds. So all those classes progressively work into the next class. But the beauty of it all is watching those kids who, they're 2 years old and their parents see them running around in the kitchen. They put music on and they see their kids twirling, and they say, well, I have to get my children into dance. And then one of the things I hear from the parents is they want to get them into Garth Fagan Dance because they want to get them into a place where the dance, the atmosphere is diverse, socially, economically, diverse atmosphere so that the children are culturally acclimated to our world as they move forward in our world.
Well, and one of the things I saw with this interview with Teresa Marsenberg was Garth talking about no mirrors.
No mirrors in our studio. There's no mirrors in our studio.
Very unusual, isn't it?
I think Garth it is unusual. It is unusual. It allows the dancer has to feel what we're telling, feel what the line is. The dancer has to know what the line is rather than go out of themselves to see what the line is and reflect it back onto themselves. And also creates a place where they have to learn to trust the eye that's telling them, no, that's not straight. You need to lower your arm a little bit to the right, and you become more vulnerable. You have to learn vulnerability. And that's one of the things that creates great artists. It's the ability to be vulnerable, because with that level of sensitivity, that's where true creativity comes, I believe.
Well, just off the top of my head, it seems to teach somebody conceptually what they're doing, not sort of, you're not going to have a mirror on stage with you when you perform.
Correct. That's one of Garth's premises. When you're on stage, there's nobody. One of the things that I do with our kids is when the kids perform with Garth Fagan Dance, I shouldn't say our kids, our young dancers perform with Garth Fagan Dance, there's nobody on stage saying, okay, you go now.
Yeah.
This is your turn. No, the children have to know their music cues. They have to know what movement they're doing when they go out there. They have to know where they are in space. And one of the best ways for them to learn that is to have that conceptual understanding of what they're doing in space, in place, within the music, on stage. And one of the best ways to learn that is at the tender age of 3 years old, is to begin to go within themselves to find out how to express themselves.
So now when we come out to see the performance on May 13th.
Saturday, May 13th at the theater at Innovation Square.
How many times can I work this into the show for
as many times as we can. I could just say that. May 13th, Saturday, May 13th, 6 p.m.
So what are the ages of the performers? From what to what?
our
pretty consistent on that show? Or?
We're a multi-generational company.
Okay.
Our performers go from, I want to say, 20 years old to 73.
73.
Yeah, Steve Humphrey's been performing with the company since 1970.
Well, and one of the things I want to get in before the end of the show, too, is that I was looking at your website. Your website is whoever did your website did a really nice job. But you can learn a lot about the history from year to year to year about Garth Fagan Dance. Very well documented, I have to say. And the other performances that you have coming up. So let's do a little retail on that too, because it's not just this one thing you're doing on the 13th. You have a lot of stuff coming up.
We have a lot of things happening. We're let me see. We have the performance on May 13th. We have our school that's happening. That's occurring at the moment. Mm-hmm. Our school will end at the end of May, I believe. We have our Summer Movement Institute, a 3-week dance intensive in our studios at 50 Chestnut Street, and we'll have a culminating performance on July 31st. I'm looking at my watch to make sure I have the correct calendar date. I don't know how that's going to help me.
Okay.
We have fringe performances coming up in September, and we'll have a home season here in Rochester in December.
So it's a really robust schedule.
It's a very robust schedule, considering where the industry is now. There was a time when things were happening more, and that's where we're headed back to. So we're really working to get Garth Fagan Dance to diversify how we perform and what we perform here for our audiences here in Rochester. We want everybody to come and see us do what we do as often as possible, and we want to offer you different options of what we do so that when you come to see us, you see some of the same things and you see some new things.
So my suggestion to people would be, if you have never seen them, come out and see them on May 13th, and you'll see something that you have not seen before.
You will see choreography by Natalie Rogers-Cropper, the first woman to create work for Garth Fagan Dance. And not the last.
Fundraising for Garth Fagan Dance.
Yes.
Well, Bill, thank you for coming in. I'm going to have you again, and if nothing else, I will see you on May 13th. So
looking forward to see.
I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you, and thank you for what you add to Rochester. It's a wonderful thing.
Our pleasure. Thank you, Dom.